All right, former President Trump's New Hampshire win further solidifying his dominance as the leading GOP candidate for the 2024 presidential election. Now gets us closer to that potential Biden and Trump rematch, what we saw play out in 2020. And if Trump wins in the general election, we likely, obviously, will expect big changes in policy. One of that is the U.S.'s stance towards China. Let's talk about this and what it could potentially mean here for investors. For that, we want to bring in Lee Munson, who's very closely following the impact on the markets. He's Portfolio Wealth Advisors President and Chief Investment Officer. Lee, it's great to see you. I'm just going to toss it to you on this overarching theme and specifically what we're talking about with China. Is Trump or is Biden better for a company like Nvidia, given the stance that we've seen from both in the past?
I don't think either is good. You've got 25%. Nvidia's a little cagey about, the stats of data centers sales to China. So I think that one thing to remember is both Trump and Biden have had harsh stances on China. Here's what the problem is. Biden is obviously a little bit more diplomatic. Biden obviously rolls a little slower, and that's not a joke on his competency. But when you look at Trump, he's mercurial. Trump could just cut off the tap. Trump could just say to Nvidia, you can't sell anything. Whereas what the Biden administration has basically said, you've got these things called the H100, the A100. These are little chips that Nvidia sells. And last year, we started seeing that they had to unveil lesser, weaker versions of that. And so far, the Biden administration, U.S. government, is fine having Nvidia sell sort of watered down chips. And if they want to do anything else, they have to sort of say, Mother, may I. I think with Trump, that's not going to work. I think Trump could very quickly turn against China, and then all of a sudden you have an embargo, and that would be very bad for stocks like Nvidia.
What is the impact to U.S. companies who still have some reliance, or in some cases, an outsized reliance in their revenue base on China if we were to see a kind of pullback or perhaps patriation more so of just the international relations policy that we have if Trump were to get back into office?
I think it's going to accelerate what Trump started when he was president first. I think it's going to accelerate what Biden continues to do. I think the message here is that Biden has not been friendly to China, but Trump's going to be even worse. And so that acceleration is going to happen. I think we have to remember, China's been a problem for about 2.5 years. Started in August of 2021, when the president, their leader for life now, started talking about common prosperity, which is not what any red-blooded American capitalist wants to hear. And I think that we've already begun over the last 7 years a de-globalization and where we have a multipolar world. Now, not to get too wonky on the topic, but I think no matter who wins, Trump's just going to accelerate it going forward for the next 4 years. Relationships are not going to get better with China. And I think companies that rely on China for sales, companies that rely on China for supply chains, they're going to continue to have to adapt and reshore, different shore, and find any shore but China going forward. Now, the problem with that, it's the second largest economy. Nobody really wants to do that. We still do billions in trade. But if we get a wingnut in the president, in the White House, and we get some guy that wants to shoot from the hip and shoot off his mouth, the variability of outcomes for those companies that rely on China for whatever, it's going to cause more volatility. And volatility means the stock price not always going up.